The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin. That's the thing about hobbies. Hobbies make you go broke. And there's certainly things that I've spent more on. My biggest fear, though, is when I pass away, that my wife will sell all of my podcast stuff for what I told her it cost. There's the real price, and then there's the price you say it costs, and they don't match.
Red alert.
Going to do a couple introductions here. So I'm BigJ with Beyond Trek Podcast. I'm here with Mark Keenan, who is, you run Over the Hill Cosplay, is the name of it. And that's the first thing I want to ask you about is, well, first tell us a little bit more about you. And then I've got to hear where you got the name Over the Hill Cosplay.
Yeah. So I'm, I don't know. I'm just an average guy, I guess. I'm a lifelong Star Trek fan. I grew up with Trek, and met a lot of people through my fandom. Over the Hill Cosplay, it's really my wife, Lisa, and I that do Over the Hill Cosplay. We have a Facebook page. So you can see a lot of stuff over there. And really, it's just something that we have done to enhance our fandom of both Star Trek and other science fiction. Over the years. So, but I'm an average guy. I'm a manager for a state health department, here in Connecticut. And, have met a lot of, even through my job, met a lot of other Star Trek fans. And it's really been, just really been a great adventure, like I say, lifelong.
What got you started on wanting to do cosplay? And what was your first experience?
Well, my first experience with cosplay was probably was doing a bit more than 12 or 13 years ago now. I was going to the 2012 Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. I think is really where we jumped in. So I think for cosplay, particularly for people that aren't very young, I think Star Trek is a good place to start with cosplay because it's comfortable, right? And if you go to a place like a Star Trek convention, there's a lot of people in costume, right? So you really fit right in with what's going on. So I think that was the first. But I think that same year we also started doing some Jules Verne related cosplay. Leidenbrock from Journey to the Center of the Earth is one of my characters too. From way back. So you see some of that as well. So Over the Hill, it's my wife, Lisa, and I. So our cosplays tend to be a his and hers, which they're not a lot of those consistently out there at the cons, doing that. And we are quite a bit older than your average folks getting into cosplay. Particularly, it's a much younger crowd now. And so, you've got Facebook pages that are like, that started with over 30 cosplay. Then there was an over 40 cosplay. There was an over 50 cosplay. And we're like, well, keep going here. Okay. So we'll just call it Over the Hill Cosplay. And that'll cover us from now on. We're good. We're good. We're in. Right. So, and so we've met a lot of people, through that as well. We do, like I said, it's science fiction based. There's always a bit of Trek involved, with that. Some of our most popular characters are the Trek ones. But we do some rather elaborate, like Mars Attacks. You can see on there, I do the Mars Ambassador, and my wife does the Martian Spy Girl. And we make a lot of this stuff too. We either modify or we make a lot of the costuming that we do.
So you're making them yourselves? A
lot of them, yes.
There's
or we find people to assist us with pieces of it too, because some of it can get kind of complicated as well. So
I had a difficult time. There's a DS9 uniform. Well, it was the uniform used starting with First Contact in the Next Gen movies, and then the latter seasons of DS9, and it's kind of surprised me how difficult it was to find a uniform. Not that it was so much difficult, but I guess for me, because I'm a big guy, and there are measurements for me just finding the right fit. But even regardless of that, it seems like it was difficult to find a uniform, and there really weren't a whole lot of options here in the U.S. A lot of it was abroad in other countries that would ship it to you. So have you found that that's been a case that even though there's so much cosplay with Star Trek, that it's, for whatever reason, still difficult to get a uniform?
It can be difficult to find that one thing you're looking for, which is why you end up making a lot of the stuff yourself, right? But that makes it really worthwhile, because that means very few people are doing that, which means you'll really have something, if you show up, particularly if it's a Star Trek convention, because they know all of it. One year we did 2017 Star Trek Las Vegas. I pulled my brother who lives out there in Vegas into this as well. And so we did a Return of the Archons cosplay. So I did, which is a little bit different. So I did when they were on the planet. And so I did James Kirk with the Western coat and the Colonel Sanders bow tie and the Western.
Oh God, yes.
right. And I did my brother up with the Spock with the black robe with the hood. That's a bit squared off, which meant I had to actually sew some cardboard into the hood to make it come out square and stay that way. I'm not sure what they did on the original show, but that's what we ended up doing. And for my wife, we made a prairie dress. So she was one of the folks on the planet. So three of us went around and folks recognized us immediately and started the whole like, yes, friend, are you of the body? People just immediately saw us together and knew this. And then we found a guy that was doing that happened to be cosplaying on the same day. One of the lawgivers from the planet, who was the Sid Haig character with the brown robe and the thin, and so he was with us for a lot of photos. So that's the kind of thing that's just like, it's so much fun to go to these conventions.
What are the odds? What were the odds that day?
Right. Fantastic photos of that too. He couldn't believe when he saw us. He absolutely couldn't believe it either. And so that's kind of like. For a true Trek fan, they know immediately what that is. Other people have no idea what you're doing. right.
Look at this guy and how they're dressed up.
What are they? Western? I don't know. What is that? but that's the kind of thing, like things that people don't go to immediately are kind of the fun stuff to do. And really, like, the thing with cosplay also, to make that part of your fandom, what's so good about it is you can go to an event, or you can do this, and now you are part of the event, right? You are actually part of it, and you are taking photos with other folks who are dressed, and and that part of it. So it really is a lot of fun to do.
So when you're at these conventions, do you find that we're all Trek fans there? So that's one part. Walking in are the Star Trek fans. Do you find that when you do the cosplay that you tend to meet or talk to more of the fans than you would, say, out of costume? Is that even a thing? Have you been to ones where you weren't in cosplay and ones where you were?
Yeah.
And could you tell a difference?
Absolutely. Yes, you can tell a difference. You're kind of, if you are not in cosplay, you can be anonymous. And you can go around, and if you want to go around to the con very quickly and hit the vendors' tables and things like that, do it undressed, because in a costume you're going to get stopped 100 times, right? And chatting with the other people and immediately have conversations. And even if it's not a Star Trek convention, we do plenty of Comic-Cons and that kind of thing. And our latest stuff that we did. Well, one character I've been doing for quite a while is an original series Klingon, right? A TOS Klingon. That is Captain Kram, Kram, which is basically Mark spelled backwards. Okay, that's how you get your Klingon name.
I like it.
But he's good. I've been doing him a long time because he's fun, right? So but what was the old line? As you can see, it's glorious to be the Klingon. Well, it really is, because you can just be the part. Even any Comic-Con will have some Star Trek based somebody there, right? And you will immediately have a banter with them, and about how Starfleet is here again and whatever, and they see the Klingon. It starts a whole thing. So I do him, and recently my wife, we did Miranda Jones cosplay for her, which came out quite nice. And so that's the brand new one for this year that we were doing. So, and even at that, going to a Comic-Con, and even that being like, somewhat episode specific, you still had people walk up and say, "Oh, it's Dr. Miranda Jones." And then it was funny because we had a couple of cosplayers who stopped by who were doing the Indiana Jones, Dr. Jones, and Junior and Senior. And they saw her and it was like, "Oh, Dr. Jones and Dr. Jones." Right. So it's the kind of fun stuff that happens.
I've been to those because there's a comic expo here in my town that happens every year. And I would have to say that I think I could venture to say that every year there's at least one Star Trek related actor or actress at this. It's not a Star Trek convention. It's a comic expo, but you can go there and you could still see, you'll find someone or multiple people in Star Trek cosplay, even if there's no Star Trek anybody there as a speaker or holding a panel, you'll still see it. You'll see the Star Wars cosplay, Star Trek, Power Rangers. I've seen Transformers, I think Pokemon, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Right. You always have a thread of Trek there. It's always going to be there.
We're everywhere.
It just ingrained itself into popular culture, to that extent that it is going to be represented, so for us, it's just fun, and we'll come up with other stuff. We do, like I said, we also do some Jules Verne's related items and H.G. Wells and some other classic science fiction cosplay as well. The Mars Attacks is rather elaborate. Also we did, also recently, The Visitors from, that show, which I love that. I used to love that show. Particularly the original miniseries, but
spectacular miniseries.
Yeah. I can remember, like, I was at a certain age at that point, and I remember having goosebumps when the mothership was over the city. That scene, it just gave you goosebumps. So we did those characters, and so my wife was more or less the Jane Badler character.
Yep.
Yep. And the version that I did was I did the reptilian rather than the human, because not a lot of people were doing that. So it's another one. So to try to find something that folks aren't necessarily doing. Now, of course, there's a reason for that because you have to wear a latex mask for 5 hours at a clip. So there's a little bit.
And that'll get hot.
Yeah, so there's a little price to pay for doing that. I don't know. I guess I consider myself a stuntman as well. When you have to survive in this stuff for but if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't be doing it, right? So,
do you ever venture out in public, not con related, just going to the grocery store, running errands, going to the bank in your outfit?
Well, it has happened. I can remember being up in Ticonderoga a few years ago for the original series tour there, and I actually went in character as the Klingon over there and got some photos. But we went to Walmart and different places. We went about town, and folks there, I think, were a little bit more used to it. I think, seeing characters around town because you've got that kind of that event there, going on. Other things that have happened is I have showed up, not in that one. I do Captain Nemo, and I do Captain Nemo with an octopus and the whole deal. And I can remember going to a hockey game or stopping off at a hockey game, coming from one event, and having a lot of folks coming around. They thought I was there for their event and not just somebody who's stopping by. So it's always fun. I had an experience in Boston where a group of us were dressed in Starfleet uniforms at the con, and we ventured away from the con. Like at lunchtime, we decided to go take a walk, and we walked, kind of far. And the farther you get from the con, the less con people there are. And now you're like in the general public. And what was interesting is nobody was making eye contact and everybody was ignoring us. And that scene that I always thought was like, oh, come on, because they're in their uniforms and they're walking through San Francisco. The crew is walking through San Francisco in the movie there. Everybody kind of ignores them.
Yep.
Well, they actually ignored us. And I'm like, that actually can happen. Nobody wants to.
No one. That's just a day.
Nobody wants to acknowledge you here. So, so that was kind of an interesting experience.
I thought that was an interesting scene. You walk around and people looking at you like, okay.
Right. More of that story is on the way back from lunch. That story gets better. On the way back from lunch, across the street, lost was LeVar Burton. And he saw us and he knew to come over to us.
We are your people over here.
So we walked with him back to the convention center.
It was a rescue mission. Yeah, just find someone dressed up in Star Trek and keep close. Like everyone keep close together. Right. Don't stray.
My people are going to help me out here.
That is amazing. Yeah, you're in good company there.
Yeah.
Because whatever problem, squabble, beef that anyone can have, if that common ground is that you're a Trek fan, that all gets left at the door. That you walk into a convention and you could be left, right, white, black, anything. It's left at the door.
Left at the door.
Because you're Star Trek fans.
Yes.
And I don't believe I've come across any other fandom quite like that. I'm sure there are. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to claim that is something special with Star Trek. Excuse me, with Star Trek. It just, to me, my impression is that is a very unifying thing. Yes. Is that you can get people around this in talking about Star Trek. Because when you find one of us, you're in for a ride, because now you're going to be in a 30 to 45 minute talk about Star Trek and your favorite shows and episodes and going over all of these different things. And you know what? I enjoy doing that kind of thing. And that was the reason for me. I don't know where I got the idea, but I think it was just one day I woke up and thought, on Facebook, I've got, you have your friends list and you kind of have this epiphany that, well, not a lot of my friends, like friends that I know, are into this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I thought that the same thing was kind of happening there. So I wanted to broaden that horizon of mutual friends to connect with more Star Trek fans, people like yourselves that do the cosplaying. A couple of the Star Trek authors I've talked to. I'm going to have an interview with Rick Sternbach, a very prolific artist for Next Generation. And you just start getting these connections. And it's this community of Star Trek where people will start knowing each other. You're interacting with each other on the social media. And I think it's a very welcoming community. I like being in a group of people that by nature are not siloed. Like, this is my piece of Star Trek and hands off, not going to share any of that with you. When it comes to podcasting, doing a Star Trek podcast, that is very difficult because the last time I looked up, and this didn't show numbers as if it were active or inactive, but easily close to 200 Star Trek podcasts. And right there, you kind of go in with this thought of there's no way. There's too much competition. You're not going to be noticed. How much fun are you going to have with it? That at any point, one of the actors from one of the shows can wake up one morning and say, I think I want to do a podcast. And then boom, 100,000 subscribers, thousands of views and listens. And here we are struggling, but we don't have it easy like that. We just do it because we enjoy doing it.
Right. And
it's the same thing with doing the cosplay. You like it. You wouldn't do it if you didn't like it. And it's not, now correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure where I'm getting this, and I know it's a thing. I know there are professional cosplayers. Like there are people that literally that's how they make their money is doing cosplay. Spend a whole day dressing up in a thing, take a couple pictures, put on Snapchat, and then that's their day. Excuse me, that's their day. Has that been something that has ever crossed your mind, getting into how can I turn this cosplay into something on the side?
I don't know how they afford to do that.
Right.
How do you make a living at that? I don't get that, because I know I do follow some of them. I've met at cons a number of those folks. Some of them, particularly on the female side, are working for modeling agencies. There's some other parts to that are going on. But some of them, particularly that have very prolific costumes, I don't know how they're doing it, or how they're getting funded. Like for us, if we do a couple of new costumes and put them out a year, that's pretty good, because like we're trying to make our own stuff and trying to and then how many events can you really go to? If you go to a half a dozen events in a year, that's something to look forward to every other month, right? So what is it like if you're doing that every week and traveling from one con to the other? I can't it's got to get kind of blurry, I would think, but I don't know how, outside of having followers on their, on their Instagram or whatever, that they're really making, a living at it.
There are some of the lucky ones.
Yeah. There's just a handful of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So has that been an aspiration for you, that kind of thought of, boy, I'd like to strike and hit big?
I don't think so. Just because it's a lot of work to do one.
Yeah.
Because when we make our stuff, it's like some of our stuff is like, it takes, I have a moderate skill set, but I work very slowly, right?
Yeah.
It's something for us to work together, when we're putting these things together. But, if that was our living, we'd be like broke, right? So we couldn't making costumes. Because people will say, "Why don't you make costumes for other people?" It's like,
That's the thing about hobbies. Why is it hobbies make you go broke?
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's true.
This podcast hobby, I don't. Still to this day, I want to say shame is one word. Buyer's remorse, another. I had these big plans and imaginations in my head getting into podcasting, all the different stuff that I wanted to do, had planned. And I thought some things were going to kind of come to fruition. And then COVID happened and just threw the wheels right off the damn bus. And I maintained doing the podcasting, but all this equipment that I got with the vision that I had, it just, and there's certainly things that I've spent more on. It's just that when you see it sitting in the closet and there hasn't been much use for it, I certainly have high aspirations. Like I would love to set up a thing, and this has been talked about actually with another friend of mine here in town, to get a few guys together and get at a table or something like that and just get the microphones out, talk about Star Trek, which is awesome. My biggest fear, though, is when I pass away, that my wife will sell all of my podcast stuff for what I told her it cost.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's there's the real price, and then there's the price you say it costs, and they don't match.
Right.
Oh, a Sennheiser microphone, that was on sale. It was like $10. Yeah. And this, This audio recorder here, this nice audio recorder, $15, $18 after tax. It's nothing. But if you always have to, the only defense that I had in preparation for where did all of this come from? How much did it cost? Why do you have all of these things? The only thing that I had is the same argument that every other guy has, is that you point to the shoes, the shoe rack, the shoe closet. Why do you have all these shoes? Do you need all these shoes? Have you worn all of them? I don't think I've ever seen you wear the same pair of shoes ever, but here they are.
There.
I get a couple computer things and I'm being looked at like Al Capone skipping out on doing his taxes. And I'm being investigated just the same. Now, I'd have to tell you that excuse doesn't always fly, but it's the hobby. Everyone's got that hobby that is more expensive than others, but it's something you've got to really like doing. I like collecting comic books when I was a kid. That was my thing, and there's still some comic book sets that I don't have all the issues of. And I keep telling myself when I go to the Comic Expo that they have here in Cincinnati, I'm going to write down the numbers of whichever ones I need to fill out the collection. So yeah, it's hobbyist stuff, and it's hobbies that you enjoy doing. And when I was asking you about ending up in public in your uniform, there was a night. This was for the season premiere of Discovery for season 3, and there's a 2-episode thing, like special invite only over the web viewing of the 2 episodes. Well, they took pictures. You got pictures of yourself taken. So naturally, I had on my DS9 uniform, the gray up top, the turtleneck, the rank pips, the comm badge. So I was dressed in the part.
Yeah.
Well, the kids weren't feeling well. And so their mom messaged me and said, could you run up to the store and get this medicine? So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, here's the task. I have to get to the store, get the thing, come back in the least amount of time possible so as to not miss this episode. So what that meant was I'm at Kroger in my Star Trek uniform.
Absolutely.
And just had to do it. I don't recall anyone giving me any funny looks. It was late at night. Kroger people were just like, whatever. And I'm sure, and the other thing that didn't help is
it's true. On the away mission, they really ignore you.
Yeah, they do. They really do, and that's why I think in Star Trek that cosplay is still a thing. So much to the point that let's just say that somehow Star Trek is real, and we're in a multiverse where it wasn't real, but basically for an away team to come down, they wouldn't have to have any kind of disguises. Come down in full uniform. It's there's some cosplayers. They're here for a convention, and no one would bother you.
Right.
Not one bit.
The most you get is, is there a convention in town?
Yep.
That's really the most that you get.
Either that, or we're looking for the nuclear vessels.
Yes. or you run into LeVar Burton who's lost, or something.
Or LeVar Burton's lost. Then
that was the weekend. That was the weekend where we helped LeVar Burton, who was lost. We were in a power failure in the lobby of the hotel with Michael Dorn.
Oh.
Yeah. And nobody but we were the only ones who knew who he was outside without the makeup on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we helped George Takei with his luggage on his way out. So that was one heck of a weekend.
Let me ask you this.
That was a heck of a weekend.
So you're in the lobby with Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
The power, did the power go out while standing there, or did you walk in and it was already out?
No, the power, I think that we were on our way back down to the lobby and the power went out, like on the whole floor. And when we went down, we went down the stairs and we got down the lobby, we realized the entire hotel was out, and there were a number of people like already in the lobby.
Here's the opportunity. At that point, you walk up to them and say, perhaps today is a good day to die. No lights on in the hotel. This is it. Missed opportunity.
Right.
And you never know if you'll get one like that again.
Right.
So you travel then to the big conventions. Is this, have you ever, I guess, been requested by an event coordinator, owner, anything official where you actually were asked to come to a thing? Has that ever happened?
No one's ever, not in that way. No.
Gotcha. Okay. So is all of it's just purely fan base that you wanted to go to do that?
Right. Purely fan base. Right. Yes.
Do you, so it's yourself and your wife make up Over the Hill Cosplay.
Yes.
And so is it more of just a social name group? Is it something that you've doing as a business venture, or just something like this? Yeah. My podcast name's Beyond Trek Podcast. That doesn't mean it's a LLC or got employees or anything like that.
No, it's not an LLC or anything, and there's no money involved. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
We're so like organized, and we can, like the last convention we did, we actually had a table. We had a cosplay table, and so they ask you, and most people put like their name, whatever their name is, cosplay. But because we were Over the Hill Cosplay, that was kind of cooler to have, like,
mm-hmm.
to have a little something, and it can be more than one person. So, so it was nice for that,
And that's got to be pretty exciting. That was
exciting. That was quite exciting to have like a table at a con and to actually be like, to be like in the convention brochure, to be in the book. That was very cool.
I thought about doing something like that myself, getting a table and just sitting at it with co-host or two of mine, and we just do a podcast recording sitting just there at the table. People walk by and, yank them in and ask them some questions, things like that.
Right. When you first messaged me on here, there was a guy at the con that said that he had a Star Trek podcast, and he was going to send us some information, but I didn't know like if that was you, because it was very shortly after I got a message. Like, that's the same guy,
Where was this in Connecticut?
I think Connecticut.
Yeah, I've never been there. You found another one of us, another Star Trek podcaster.
Somebody claiming to have a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't get an invite, so I don't know.
Well, there are so many, and I'm surprised if this were even anywhere close to the first one that you've talked on, because I did a search one day just to see with Star Trek podcasting, it's gotten really fat in the tail. Because no one can tell you, no, you can't do a podcast. It's not something where you get hired or you're employed. You have your microphone, recording software, internet connection. There you go. You can do your own thing. And what happens is you get all these new podcasts, and from a Star Trek fan, their first thing is reviewing the top 10 episodes of Next Generation, or talk about City on the Edge of Forever, review that episode for the 11th millionth time. And so it feels like the competition can be very daunting. when you're trying to make that mark of your podcast name, or what is it you do that people like knowing? Because I've done that. I did what that guy did. There's a comic expo here in my town, the Cincinnati Comic Expo, and there was a year I went and I was going around just doing sound bites, talking to different people, and would mention it, say here's where it'll be on Beyond Trek podcast, and check it out, and do all of that. But with cosplayers and with any cosplayers, fan films, podcasters, any group that does that, like extracurricular work with Star Trek, I don't want to say so much that all competing with each other, but no one's the only one doing a thing.
Right.
There's multiples.
Right.
So are there cosplay competitions that you take part in, where you see that yourself, that there's competition even just with cosplaying?
These cons usually will have some kind of cosplay contest.
Yep.
Which I kind of shy away from. It's not what I'm there for. Right. I'm not there to compete with people. I'm just there to have fun. Yeah. Doing this, and so it's not like, and so to add an element of competition, I don't think it's not for us. Just not for us. That's I think a different thing. And then you've got, and I've seen those go down where you've got people have put like so much work into things, and then some little kid shows up and they're cute and they win or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh
damn,
no.
Kid didn't spend the kind of time I did on my uniform.
It's like, oh no.
Jeez.
So count me out.
That's a ripoff right there. I spent a week and a half on my outfit, my cosplay, had everything down perfect. You bring your little baby wearing Spock ears and like, oh, so cute. He won. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I can imagine that, yes, because don't go with the cute factor. Go with the technical accuracy. This badge is here. The shoulder straps there. Right. The uniform's the right color of monster maroon. Let's get in it. We're not here for who's cuter.
Yeah.
Is this something that you see yourself doing long term? Is this like I want to do this after retirement? This is going to be the thing that continue on.
Retirement's not too far away for us. So yeah. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. I'm going to get
just to like, do a different costume and meet, keep meeting people. And it's great. We met so many great people, so many great cosplayers, just, and not necessarily the big ones that you like, that are kind of like, the big names that are out there, but just like some local ones that are really good, really talented people, and just very nice people. It's just, yeah.
Well, if you are ever around the Cincinnati area, definitely have to get in touch with me, because I would love to see the cosplay in person. And if I ever find myself in Connecticut, which I'd honestly would have to say I'm not a traveler, I'm a homebody. Yeah. So but that'd be great to see the outfits. And so as we wrap up here, I just want to ask you, do you have any social medias that you'd like to share? Any upcoming projects or conventions you're going to? Anything that you'd want any of our listeners or viewers to get more information, to see more on Over the Hill Cosplay?
Over the Hill Cosplay, see us on follow us on Facebook. That's really the only place where we are. And if we're doing any con appearances or something, we'll announce it on there. But we only do 2 or 3 a year. And then maybe other events as they may pop up here. So, I may be Captain Nemo may be doing visiting some local daycare centers. I was asked to have him do some reading over there. So, but really they're after the octopus. They're not after Captain Nemo. He comes with an octopus, and if you see it, you know what I mean. But
yeah,
the octopus.
Well, that's great.
Some other stuff, some other things, as they come up. But that's where it's at. But for fans, I think, and for us, I think being part of the event makes a big difference. And I think you've got to really do this stuff and participate. Do these things, because there's so many. I mean, if I was going to say there are 4 things I think, that my wife and I and my brother, being Star Trek fans, that we got to see, and regrettably 2 of them are gone. One of them, and I think they're like really must see for Star Trek fans. One was the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas at the Hilton, which is gone. And every week I talk to somebody who's like, "Oh, I never got to see that," and it's gone. So we were frequent visitors there when it was open. The second is the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. I think it was strongest around the 50th year anniversary. I think it took a beating, COVID trying to come back. I know the health got some issues going on. I think in some future years that'll come back stronger, and that's an experience fans should get to. The third one, which is also gone, was the Star Trek Academy, which was a traveling exposition. When we saw it, it was at the Intrepid Museum in New York. So not only did you have the Starfleet Academy, they had they had one of the space shuttles on the aircraft carrier, and they had the Galileo 7. Mm-hmm. The real one there. So that was a perfect time to go there. Okay. But folks who missed that really missed something too. And the fourth one I'm going to say is Star Trek original series tour in Ticonderoga is something that's worth looking at. And I know there's something similar in Georgia, Neutral Zone Studios. I've not been to that one, but it really is very unique. And what I do know, the inside scoop on the folks in Ticonderoga, they actually ended up purchasing all of that Star Trek Academy, Starfleet Academies, and they're not sure what they're going to do with it yet. But that was a great. So hopefully they do something with that down the road. So Star Trek fans, I think, go to this stuff and do these things. Some of them that just aren't around anymore. So
I definitely need to start finding a way to get to these things. STLV, wish I would have been there. And earlier tonight, I was talking with a couple other guys I was doing interviews with, and we were talking about the Ticonderoga thing, and said, yeah, I've got to try to get to something, because besides the Comic Expo that's here every year, I haven't really ventured out a whole lot. And I think it's, getting about time to get to an actual full-on Star Trek convention. Because just kind of miss doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Mark,
that's my advice. That's my advice.
Get to a convention. Yes. I'm really glad we got the chance to talk about the cosplay and about your group that you're doing this with. And if there's anything that we can do here at Beyond Trek Podcast to help you with any promoting you may be doing, just getting the word out on a couple different things, feel free to reach back out to me, and enjoyed having you on to talk with you about this.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on here. This was great meeting you, and I hope to keep in touch.
Absolutely. We will. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/BeyondTrek.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.